or virtual game that you've been finding from your meetings. So with that, I'll start with Liz, because you're in my top left.
Sorry, I was starting the record, and so I didn't hear the question. Can you repeat it for me?
Yes, thank you for starting the record. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and we are recording because we will post this after the fact on our Facebook page for our office. So
we did intend to Facebook live stream this, but we had technical difficulties and that didn't work. So we'll just post the video. The question, Liz, is just your intro, your organization, of course, and any favorite COVID, like fun, Zoomy, virtual meeting thing that you've been doing.
oh, okay. Great. Okay, so I'm Liz Babcock. I manage the climate action team in the Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency. And what is something that I really like? Well, I still look fondly on the funny hats day that we had when we were doing the Climate Action Task Force. I know that's not really a how to make your meeting, you know, more efficient, but it was a lot of fun. It's hard to be away from people for so long, and so seeing people just on a screen in a little box isn't always the same as being in person. So having those moments of just fun and connection is always a nice thing. I think you're on mute still.
Yeah, it's a different setup for, so anyone who's not done this, it's a entirely different setup. So finding mute is Grace, you're next.
Oh, I was just going to say, do you want to stop sharing your screen, Sunrisa, or do you want to keep up the agenda while you're going through the hellos?
Yeah, no, let's stop that so that people can just pay attention. But then I have to figure out how to stop sharing. There it is. Okay, I found it. Go ahead, Grace, you're next.
Okay. Hi, I'm Grace Rank, Executive Director of the Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency. And honestly, Sunrisa, I don't think I have an answer to your question. Like, how do you make the question is, how do you make the meetings more engaging? Or
what's the
how
funnest,
we're liking you using Zoom?
What's the funnest thing you've been seeing on Zoom or your meetings where people just kind of made it more interesting?
I gotta pass.
There's nothing.
I don't know. We've all been diving into this virtual world, and I am glad it's working and we're all getting used to it. How about that?
Sounds good. Awesome. Jocelyn, you're next. While you're eating. Sorry.
Having a bad apple. Hi, Jocelyn Hiddle with Colorado State University. You know, this has not been a thing that's been happening in meetings, but I've been playing card games with my niece and nephew using House Party, which is good, so that their smack talk can happen via chat while we play cards and they beat me.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, Lauren, you are up next. And Eric is in the hole.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Quillian. I'm the Energy and Environmental Policy Manager at Excel Energy. And I had a similar one to Jocelyn, which is just, I have Zoom calls with my family every weekend. And we all take pictures of things that happen through the week and then share them with each other as background. So that's been fun. And my nephew particularly loves it. And shows all sorts of different pictures. So it's just a good way to connect.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Eric, you're up, and Yambe, you're after that.
So Eric Mankay, Sustainability Analyst with Denver Public Schools. And I'd say we haven't been playing any games really, but just different people playing around with their backgrounds or just their real backgrounds and seeing what people have in their houses, which can be really interesting to see at times. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Nyambe and then Jill.
My name is Nyambe Ladon. I'm filling in for Cindy Chang. I'm the Director of Youth Programs at Groundwork Denver. And I guess I would say the nicest thing I've experienced via Zoom was a breathing exercise, like a grounding exercise. It's a cool way to interact and feel like we were more in the same space together.
Awesome. Thank you. Jill, followed by Johnny.
Jill Cooper, Geosyntech. I'm getting really good feedback when I take my meetings on my hikes with me. I'm up in Leadville right now, working really remote. And I was on a lunch meeting today. Literally, they bought everybody lunch. I didn't do that. I took them on a hike, and I had so many people stopping and going, could I go with you? So you could take meetings outside and just, I take turns flipping the camera around and then facing me so they can see Mount Elbert and Massive. Anyway, they're really enjoying it, they tell me.
Awesome, thank you. And after Johnny, who's up next, will be Joyce.
Hey everyone, I'm Johnny Rogers. I'm the Renewable Energy Specialist in Denver's Climate Office. I've had some fun doing some Zoom Jeopardy. It's a reasonable platform to try and do some kind of happy hour games with that. So check it out.
That was a lot of fun as someone who has played Johnny's Zoom Jeopardy. Joyce and then Leslie.
Hi everyone, Joyce Kennedy with People-Inators Action Network, and mine is more of an observation. I have gotten to know some people over Zoom and then met them in person, and I couldn't remember if I'd ever met them really in person before. So Zoom is kind of working to get to know some people. So it's nice that that can be the case.
Excellent, thank you. Leslie and then Theron.
Hi, I'm Leslie Bazins. I'm with the Department of Public Health and the Environment. And I'm kind of like Grace. I don't know. I haven't really been part of anything that fun in Zoom. But I mean, one of the icebreaker that I did that was kind of unusual was writing in the comments what vegetable you felt like. So it's kind of funny to see what people would say.
What kind of vegetable do you feel like today, Leslie?
I feel very, very broccoli or imperfect carrots, very on theme.
Awesome. Theron followed by Taylor.
I love those carrots. They're very interesting there, Leslie.
Thank you. By imperfect.
Theron Makeley. I work with Resilient Denver and do sales and marketing consulting on the side. My most interesting Zoom thing has been watching my 80-year-old parents learn how to use Zoom and look forward to it and get actually pretty skilled at it. So every Sunday we have a Zoom with them. So I look forward to seeing them every Sunday.
Oh, that's awesome. Taylor followed by Whit.
Hi all, I'm Taylor Mollers. I'm the Sustainable Neighborhoods Administrator in the Denver Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency. And for these Zoom calls, I love seeing everybody's pets or hearing them in the background. Love those furry friends.
Hopefully mine will behave and I will not have to run off screen. Whit and then Jen.
Hey everyone, I'm Whit Harlan. I'm filling in for Casey Stock. I'm with DaVita. I'm a sustainability analyst there. I guess my favorite thing that we've been able to do, our team was able to find a way to all play video games together as a team. Be able to play like Pictionary. It's a lot of fun, a lot of laughs.
Awesome. Jen and then Adrian.
Jen Hale, Denver Zoo. And I think early on when we were really kind of shut down and having to remote work from home a lot, our teams kind of organized DIY at-home trivias, which involved alcohol and a lot of fun goofiness, but it was good to kind of connect with folks that we had to let go with the COVID shutdown and team members that were still involved. So we were able to kind of keep that family together. So it was good times, and I think we need to restart them.
Absolutely. Adrian and then Ashley.
Hi everyone, I'm Adrian Dorsey, Executive Director for Good Alternatives Colorado. And we actually, our staff did a scavenger hunt the other day during the staff meeting where I was calling out an object and then people had to run in their house and try to find that object, and whoever came back first got a point and then won a prize at the end. So that was super fun.
That one sounds fun. We should do that next in the December meeting, maybe. Ashley, then Jay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Reese, Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Relations Director for McKinstry. I've been doing a weekly trivia game with the old friends who live all across the country and has been super fun and just a great way to reconnect.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Jay, and then Mike.
Hi there, my name is Jay April and I represent the Berkeley Regis United Neighborhood Association. And what I like most about Zoom is the ability it gives me to multitask, like when I was in a meeting and watching the World Series at the same time.
What are you multitasking with now, Jay?
That's my secret.
Thank you. All right, Mike, and then Jessica.
Hi, I'm Mike Salisbury. I work in the Climate Action Office on all things that have to do with electric vehicles. I would also vouch for Johnny's Jeopardy skills. And even though sometimes it seems weird that all of our phone calls have now become Zoom calls, it has been a good way. Lots of people I would never have seen their face, I actually have in person or in face-to-face meetings, which is kind of nice to actually put faces to names. They're not just disembodied voices anymore.
Oh, awesome. Definitely. Jessica, and then I think Devin will be next. Uh-oh, looks like Jessica froze. So Devin, why don't you go ahead and we'll come back to Jessica.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everybody. It's really nice to see you. And I'm Devin Buckles, Director of the Water Connection, which is the Policy and Water Resources arm of the Greenway Foundation. And I have not been playing any games on Zoom at all. So I really feel left out. And apparently I'm not going to the right meetings.
Yeah, well, we'll have to make the December one a lot of fun and make up for it.
Yeah.
I see Jessica's reconnecting. I don't know if she has audio yet. Do you have audio, Jessica? She does not. So
Hey
Stella.
guys, sorry, I'm waiting. I'm here picking up.
Go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm here. I'm picking up my daughter from school, so I apologize. They have this weird school schedule now. So anyways, Jessica Newton with Vibe Tribe Adventures, as well as OBI Power. And then I also now represent Grid Alternative, their board. So that's cool. About Zoom meetings, you can multitask, kind of like what they said. I can pick up with everyone.
Awesome. We didn't quite catch, or at least I didn't, your cool Zoom thing, other than the fact that maybe you can multitask and pick up kids while you're on a meeting, which I think is what you said. Okay, next we have Winna and then Stella. Oh, still on mute, Winna.
Sorry about that. That's like I should know that by now. Winna McLaren, Denver Public Schools, and the most fun thing during my Zoom calls is when my 5-year-old photobombs the whole scene. She has fun.
Awesome. And it's the favorite thing that I love too. Mike just had that happen. I realized I did not introduce myself, and I'll just do it now so that I don't take the last one. Sonrisa Lucero with Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency. You all know me. But yeah, my favorite is when a kid or a pet photobombs. I guess that's not a game, but I really love it. And last but not least, Stella. So Stella said that she might have to be in and out. I'm seeing on her chat here due to something that's happening there at her house. But if she comes back on, we will greet her with great joy and smiles because that's all we'll be able to do. And with that, I would like to hand it off into our actual first agenda item, or third, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it, which is an update on the office, ballot initiative, and the SAC by Grace. And I can no longer make her a co-host, Liz. I don't know what happened. So if you can make her co-host so she can share her screen, that would be fabulous. And
Thanks. Hi, everybody. So I don't want to take too much time. I think my time allotment is 15 minutes. And so let's see if I can share a screen now. Looks like I can. And I just have to find it. Oh, what's happened to me before? I have it open. Oh, show all windows. Here you go. Sunrisa, how about if I start with our office?
Sounds great.
Okay, here we go. I'm attempting to share. Do you see it? Yes, okay, great, thanks. So everybody, this is actually pretty much the same presentation that I gave to City Council at the end of September. I took out a couple of technical slides that are required for that presentation, but otherwise I thought you'd find this interesting. So first, again, don't want to take too long, and in our last meeting, we kind of went over what our office is focused on, but I thought you'd be interested, especially in, is it going to it? There we go. Oops, I should show the whole slideshow. So first we have our updated metrics. So our climate action folks were able to update our emissions inventory with 2019 data. And what you can see here, the bottom line of the story is that transportation is 32% of our emissions inventory, and almost the entire rest is from buildings. And so I think it's an interesting metric, and it's great that we have it broken down by the different types of buildings. It'll really help us focus our program areas in the years to come. But here, this is also very interesting. That last pie chart was a snapshot in time. This bar chart actually shows you the change since our baseline year, which is 2005. So the primary, I think if you can see my mouse or my cursor here, this first bar shows that we have actually achieved the first benchmark goal that Denver set for itself in the 80 by 50 plan, and that was to reduce our emissions 20% by 2020, and we have achieved that. And then it's similar across the board here in the specific sectors. What's really interesting is to see, for me at least, was this transportation figure. And I think it's really, it's on point with some issues being dealt with at the federal level right now. So you know that in the last 10 years, Denver has grown by 100,000 people. So how in the world were we able to reduce transportation emissions during that time when we know we have more vehicles? Well, the key factor are the CAFE standards. So CAFE standards, and also the introduction of and so both of those things combined, but I think with a special emphasis on the impact of the fleet emissions requirement or fleet fuel efficiency requirements by all the automakers, just really goes to show how important those federal standards really are. Next, this is, our office has combined the Office of Sustainability, which now is Sunrisa, as I'm looking over at her, and then the folks who were in the Environmental Quality Division of DDPHE. So that would be a little bit lopsided of an org chart if we were to continue with that alignment. So I think true to our name, in 2021, we're probably going to move to at least a theoretical org chart that divides us up into groups. Of course, we are not siloing ourselves. We're still going to be very compatible and working across lines. But generally speaking, we'll have operations, a climate action team, which you're already familiar with, and sustainability and resiliency, which will move some of our programs, like our public-facing programs. There's a waiting room notice just popped up. Sorry, it just threw me off. And so you can see that we have some room to grow in each of these fields. So for example, although, Mike, who's on the call with us today, is totally running vehicle electrification, there's a reason why we shouldn't grow into sustainable transportation and work, more closely with our colleagues in Dottie on a subject like that. Circular economy, we're working on, Susan Renaud, one of our colleagues, is working on that, and she's really collaborating closely with folks in Dottie who work on waste, and also with our economic development folks. So this, I just wanted to show you to give you a sense of how we're trying to flesh out what our new agency focuses on. And I just want to walk you through a couple of our major initiatives in 2021. So in our climate action group, I'm sorry, before I talk about what's on the slide,
I want to draw your attention to this section at the bottom. On each of the next few slides, you'll see how the initiatives that we'll be working on in 2021 connect to the recommendations of the Climate Action Task Force. So that's what the fine print is. And don't worry, we will get this presentation out to all of you so you don't have to take notes or memorize it or anything. So we're very excited to be working on a building performance policy that'll be hopefully launching this fall. It's going to take a number of months. I think we've got a 6 to 9 month timeline on what that will look like, but that's really the next evolution of our benchmarking program. So you may be familiar with the benchmarking program, which requires buildings of a certain size to report their energy usage to the city. A building performance policy would actually require that existing buildings actually document energy savings year over year. So we would not be the first city to do this. There are other large cities that have done it, and we're really looking forward to that along with our electrification plan. Johnny, who's on the call with us today, he's going to be hopefully breaking ground on our first community solar project. Mike is, of course, always working on EV access expansion, so getting more electric vehicles out into more communities. And then we're working on the next iteration of our Denver Green Code and the Green Building Ordinance. Under the banner of sustainability and resiliency, I think I talked about this the last time, we have a lot of goals in Denver. We've got a lot of goals and a lot of plans. And of course, the Climate Action Task Force has now asked us to revisit those goals to see if we can make them more aggressive, both in terms of the emissions reduction and the timeline. So we need to assess where we're at, where Denver's at with all of its goals, and then figure out what's the difference, what's the delta between where we think we ought to be given current climate science and where we are, and then adjust our plans accordingly. We're working on the Executive Order 123, just in case you're not familiar with it. That is the city's internal policy document that sets sustainability as a common standard practice across all of our agencies and offices. And it's just due for a refresh, but it's actually a really big process, and it involves a lot of internal stakeholders of the city, so that will be a big effort for us. We are collaborating with our colleagues in DEDO, the Department of it's the Economic Development Office, sorry, to work on workforce development. And then we're also doing employee training. We're hoping to launch at least 1 or 2 video series that will eventually be required for all city and county staff to get everybody on the same page with sustainability. So we're excited about that. We just kicked off a citywide resiliency planning effort with our colleagues in the Parks Department. And that's going to be big. Denver has a lot of plans already. And so the idea of, one plan to rule them all when it comes to resiliency is a little intimidating, but we think that we have a good approach where we're going to be first doing an assessment of what are our gaps in our existing plans. And for us in particular, we're interested in what plans does Denver have that have not adjusted or accounted for climate change impacts, and see how we can feed this subject into their planning processes. And of course, the Sustainability Advisory Council, which is here, and we'll be talking about that next, just our update to the restructuring plan. Of course, equity is a major issue, number 1 for our mayor, and I just wanted to draw your attention to a few projects underneath those other banners that really focus on equity. So we'll be looking at conducting an energy burden analysis, which will really, again, help us focus on where our programs and services, and if we are able to create incentives, where those should be. The Climate Equity Vulnerability Index is going to be really exciting. This is a massive mapping program. You may be familiar with some of the equity maps that Denver already has, but now we are pulling together our office, the Office of Emergency Management, Planning Office, Parks, and Liz is going to correct me if I forget somebody, Denver Health, and Department of Public Health and Environment. So 6 different entities are going to come together on this massive mapping project and really update what is Denver's status on a lot of different factors. So imagine a GIS map with an enormous number of layers, which again is all focused on where should our programs be aimed in order to have the most impact. Community solar, electric vehicle car share, there's a lot happening there that's focused on equity. The Sustainability Advisory Council, making sure that we have routine engagement with all of our different communities rather than relying on individual task forces to do that. And then, you know, at some point we will be able to hire, and we are really looking forward to the opportunity to work with our HR department and tailor the sections of our job descriptions that we're able to control to make sure that they communicate to applicants that we really want and seek new voices to join our team. And there's a lot if you've read a job description lately, there's a lot of language in those that can steer applicants away and make them feel like they may not be qualified. And so we want to make sure that the language that we use is really welcoming. And so we're excited about that opportunity. So this is our budget for next year, and it's a little, I have an asterisk there, which is really important. You see that Renewables has a very large chunk of the budget. That's because this pie chart includes all of our sources of funding, including grants. And I think we've mentioned before that our solar initiative received $1 million grant from the state to support the community solar program. So, but you can see that in general, we're pretty well spread out between our different initiatives. And with that, I'll make a quick mention about the ballot initiative, which I'm sure you're all aware of. Now, a caveat is, as a city employee, I am not allowed to comment for or against any ballot initiative or candidate, but I am pleased to tell you that the mayor had changed his status from neutral on the issue to support. And I think, you know, it feels pretty good. It's really exciting, and I think there's a good chance it could pass. And so we are, we're preparing for that internally, everything from, frankly, figuring out how the internal mechanics of that fund work. You have to get this budget entity set up so that it can receive funds, and then also so that it can send out funds. So there's little things like that we have to do, in addition to figuring out, you know, how do we engage our stakeholders in determining how the fund should be expended. So we're excited about that, but I think I'm going to stay within the boundaries of what I think I could discuss, and we'll just leave that there. So Marisa, am I doing okay for time? Okay. The last part of this presentation is not too long, but I thought you'd be interested in the climate action and sustainability related fund or programs by other agencies. And so again, this goes back to, this is from the presentation I gave to City Council, and so you can imagine they're interested in this too. So under transportation and mobility, this is the dollar figures that you see here is only what's allocated by all of our agencies in 2021. So it's specific to that. So you can see some of the new or enhanced programs and projects that you're going to see next year, which I think are all really exciting. And I'll make a quick plug for our EV First policy for new fleet vehicles. So what we're doing there is, you know, we have this goal to, we had a goal to get 200 electric vehicles in our fleet by the end of this year. We're going to come a little short of that, only because the police department had budgeted for some electric motorcycles, which is exciting, but given the budget situation, that purchase is on hold, but otherwise we would make that. And so I think it's really important that we focus on vehicles, having a policy that an agency needs to show that an electric vehicle can't do the job. And so if we really start to steer those purchases towards EVs, we're really going to see a ramp up in the numbers, even without setting an actual physical number goal. Under landfill diversion, the Cherry Creek Compost Transfer Station is getting a $2 million injection so that it can increase its volume. And the city is projecting at least a 3% increase in both compost and recycling in next year. And the pay-as-you-throw program, that is, as you know, it's on hold, but the work behind the scenes is still going on. And I know Taylor, who's on our call, has been engaged in the prep work for the outreach and education on that. So the city's plan is that all of the mechanisms needed to roll out that program will be ready to go in place by next fall, so that if the city is ready to implement that program, they've got all the pieces in place and it'll be ready to launch. Under the category of natural resources, Parks is doing so much I barely had space to list it all on the slide, but you can see their focus on increasing tree canopy, reducing irrigation, and so on. And I really like this bar chart over here. If you're familiar with the Parkfield Lake Park, that was one of their pilot projects where they reduced the area of irrigated land. And this is the before and after impact of the number of gallons per year reduced. I mean, it's just a huge impact. Dottie is also expanding their green infrastructure. And of course, our environmental quality folks still focus very heavily on keeping our water quality clean. Energy efficiency and renewables, we've got a lot going on here from a variety of departments, and I apologize if these acronyms don't look familiar, but DOTI, General Services, the airport, the National Western, which has the new waste heat recovery system you may have heard of, parks, and then our office. So there's a lot of us involved in making sure that the city is implementing as many energy efficiency programs as we can, as well as getting renewables on our sites. Public health. This is also, an important area for us. So city doesn't purchase a lot of food, but when we do purchase it, almost 25% of our food purchases are from local sources. And that is the current goal that DDPHE has. And I think that's really important for our region's economy as well as for health. And of course, these two pictures make me sad because goodness, we haven't seen these mountains in quite a while. But our folks in DDPHE are certainly focused on reducing air pollution and improving our water quality. And finally, we come to what I call the intangibles, which you may not even know about as folks who aren't working with the city every day. But I'll give you just one example here. Like these are things that I couldn't put a dollar value on, but I think are a really important role for the city. Our city attorney's office provides legal services for us that I tell you, having worked with other governments, other local government attorneys' offices do not provide these services for nothing. And they do it as a routine course of business. So everything from helping us write amicus briefs in federal cases to helping us prepare for our presentations to the PUC and other regional and statewide regulatory bodies. I mean, it's just there's so much here that we can't put a dollar value on, but they're really important city services. And so then that brings us to the city's total climate investment, which in 2021 will be about $71 million. And again, that's absolutely not including any staff time. That's just actual dollars going to measurable impactful projects. So that's the end of this presentation, and we'll be able to take questions anytime. So Marisa, do you want me to take any questions now or go? We probably should stop and take questions now and then go into the presentation on SAC.
Yes, I think.
Right, I'll stop sharing. I'm happy to entertain questions, and I'm not sure how to do that unless you want to physically raise your hand or just start speaking or put any questions in the chat.
Let's just go ahead and speak up if you have any questions. I don't expect a wave where we talk over each other.
You said you'd be sending out the Slack.
Yes, we can send it out after. So Marisa, either send it with the minutes or we can even send it out later today.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Grace, I have a question. The task force had a breakout of recommendations, and each one of those had carbon reductions on there. Will there be a plan to associate how much carbon is affected by each project, and how does that get monitored and have an overwatch committee on that?
Well, that's a little bit of a separate question, and I think that's part of our big goals matrix that I mentioned. So we, I think, yes, you can count on seeing it yet or soon, but it's certainly something that we're going to be working on.
So with regard to air quality, I know that Michael was doing a lot of great work getting sensors installed at schools. And something that I've realized in the past few weeks or months in watching air quality is sometimes when I look at different apps on my phone, I get dramatically different results. And I was just wondering if there's a way that we can sort of tap into that air quality data that is being collected at the different schools, and if there's an app, and if there's even maybe some room there for engaging the public more and more in that important health issue and a way to sort of watch it real time.
Well, I don't have information for you today on that because I need to check in with Michael and the folks at EQ, but that's certainly something we can come back to you with. I'm just writing it down, sorry. Anyone else? Okay, well then the next, oh, Jill, were you about to say something?
Well, actually, I just had a quick question. Is the city going to engage in CO2 sequestration at all?
I couldn't hear you. What now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is the city going to engage in or want to try to get any CO2 sequestration permits? Are you guys going to try to put any CO2 underground yourself, or are you just going to try to encourage it?
I
Funny
see
how
Liz
you
just
should
popped
ask
up on the
that.
video.
What's that? Sorry, Grace.
No, I just see Liz popped up on the video. Liz, do you have a comment about that?
Yeah, I was just going to say there is a cement plant that's going to be doing some of that in Colorado, but I think the problem with carbon sequestration rather than carbon capture and use is just having the technology and understanding whether or not that carbon actually stays in place. There's not a lot of evidence of that. I don't see that as being something that the city would pursue because we produce so much pollution. We have so much emissions coming from so many sources that our primary focus right now today would be to reduce those existing sources of pollution.
Okay.
But I think from an industrial perspective and other sectors that have more opportunity to really look at that, I think, that might be something that comes out from, partnership with private industry, but I don't think that would be something that the city would be pursuing directly, no.
We just have a group of people working on that in case you guys want any background on it, including the regulatory piece, because the state hasn't been delegated those permit authority yet. So it's taking an extra couple of years to go through EPA. So if you ever want background on it, just let me know.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. So Marisa, should I go into the next one now? Okay.
Yes,
I'm going to screen share again.
And then just so you know, Grace, we do have those polls if you want them for the term limits and then for the ad hoc.
Why don't you just interject when I'm talking and when those should go up?
Perfect, will do.
Can you do that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this is going to be quick too, but as Sonrisa just mentioned, she has a couple of polls for you. Let's see. All right, so in our last presentation, or our last meeting, I gave you a fairly long presentation of what we're recommending for restructuring the SAC in 2021. So I'm just coming back to you today to give you an update on some ideas that have changed or tweaked a little bit that we're still considering since the last meeting. But I'm first going to go through the things that have not changed and then go into that. So first we have Wellstone Collaborative Strategies was our consultant on the Climate Action Task Force. And we were lucky they had a little bit of time left in their contract for this year. And so they're actually able to help us in doing some of the legwork on this restructuring plan, including drafting bylaws, which is great because that can be a lot of work. So they're going to be working on that. Within that, they're going to be working on helping us to define the committee roles and the structure, and then actually drafting an application and the selection criteria for folks who would like to be on the SAC. So that was one big change. Nothing has changed with this. So this is the same structure chart that we presented at our last meeting, and as of right now, there haven't been any changes to that. No changes in what the function would be. Again, only slight difference between if the Climate Protection Fund passes and if it doesn't. And all right, so Sonrisa's just put up the first, okay, oh, I was gonna say I wasn't there yet, but that's good. I'll just go straight to, I'll just talk about that then.
Sorry.
So one thing, yeah, I jumped the gun a little bit, but that's okay. I'll just go through the things that have, well, where's that? Well, I don't have that there. Okay. Ignore the background. Go ahead and do the terms. So in the last time when we presented, we had suggested that terms would be 3 years, and Sonrisa suggested that that might be long and it might have an impact on our ability to attract diverse candidates that not only diverse in terms of our personal identities, but in terms of profession, because some people can be on the SAC as part of their job. And for others, it will be more of an extracurricular activity, and it'll be harder to take more time away. And so we're debating 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year terms. And so you have voted, and well, with 65% of the precincts reporting, now 70%, I feel like CNN on November 3rd, it looks like 2 years is winning the vote right now. And so good, that's really good to know. I think one of the things that we're concerned about is, in addition to the idea that they might be 3 years might be too long, 1 year could be too short and it would lead to a lot of turnover. and instability. So I appreciate that your thoughts that perhaps 2 years might be a good one, might be a good mix, and we'll definitely keep that in mind. So I don't know, I guess we can leave that up for a second. All right, so I don't know what you see on your screen. Okay, good. So we've closed that. So if we can take that down for a second. Now you get to hear my dog. So on the committees themselves, again, nothing has changed here. Nothing's changed here in terms of what the committees would be focused on. And nothing has changed on the selection criteria or the selection committee concept. Somebody said this would be your next poll, I think. I don't know if you had a poll for this one. So we were still looking at where the SAC would be comprised of the co-chairs of each of those subcommittees or each of those committees, plus one member of City Council. But again, Sunrisa suggested that perhaps we should consider having 2 at-large people who are not necessarily, who would not have to be committee chairs, to potentially increase the diversity of the SAC itself. Again, not just in terms of personal identity, but in terms of profession or the communities represented, if we don't have that represented once the committee chairs are chosen. And I think we're certainly open to that. I think I'm interested in making sure that the SAC stays a manageably sized group. But I think having that in our back pocket could be really useful. So again, we're interested in your opinions on this, and keeping in mind that an odd number total is always important. So interested in your thoughts on that. And this is a slide where I had the terms, so we can skip that because nothing else changed there. And then the only other change, the only other change since the last time we met is that it is common for city boards to require that the members live or work in Denver, but we thought we should make an exception for the Science Committee, because the idea of the Science Committee is to keep us on track with what the current science is regarding climate and sustainability and natural area stewardship and resources. And if we were to require that they also live or work in Denver, that could eliminate a lot of our most valuable local resources, like folks who work at NREL and folks who are in our university communities. But also, who knows, we might be able to attract a global audience for this, which could also be really exciting. So we thought we'd at least make that concession just for that one committee, because its charge is quite different from the others, which are very focused on our local programs and local services, whereas that one is supposed to be, giving us the global perspective. So that's it for the changes. And I think I can stop sharing, but Sunrisa, you can still show your polls, is that right? All right, so how many ad hoc members? We've got a little bit of a majority for 2, but we've got 3 as a close second, so we will definitely keep those in mind. And then Sunrisa, do you have a third poll?
Nope, that's it, just those 2.
Yep. And Theron, I see your comment there, so we'll take that into consideration too. Okay, so I'm gonna put that up on my screen. So again, happy to take questions or comments. And I know that we have a very meaty agenda to get to as well, but that concludes my presentations. And then again, happy to get your feedback on that if you have any at this time.
Hi, this is Jay. I was just wondering, because I didn't read it, are the committees members of the SAC?
So the way that the way that we're proposing it is that the heart of the work, the real work, will be done at the committee level. So the committees are where policy recommendations and program recommendations will come from. They will then advance those up to the SAC, which will be comprised of the co-chairs of those committees. The SAC then votes on those recommendations, which are then presented to our office. And then it's up to us to come back and report to the SAC on what we have or have not done on those recommendations. And I think that's the key difference from the way the SAC has been, is that, it was in the Office of Sustainability in the mayor's office, but then Sunrisa and Jana would have to go to different departments to say, okay, here are some recommendations from our SAC. Now, our staff will be staffing these committees. Our staff will be fully engaged with the work that's happening. And so we will have a formal process of taking your recommendations and then coming back to you with a report.
have a question about youth recruitment. Has there been youth recruitment in the past, or has it been a difficult task to try to get youth on the advisory council?
That's a good question. I'll defer to Sunrisa. I know that in this new version, we are going to officially state that people ages 16 and up can apply. And I don't know if it's been that way in the past, but that's certainly the way that we're looking at youth recruitment. And I will say that I mentioned this in the last presentation, but in our first iteration of this, we had assumed that we would have a youth council. But as we started talking, we're like, well, why don't we have youth on all the different ones? Like, why put them in their own group when they can be participating in every one of the subjects? We had the same idea with business representatives. Like, rather than having a business committee, let's make sure that businesses and institutions are represented on all the different subjects. But Sunrisa, do you want to speak to whether or not the SAC in the past had targeted youth, or was that not common?
Yeah, so we did have 2 youth positions for a while, for a number of years on the council. They were both actually high school students. And the challenge, of course, with it is getting them out of school, getting their permission to come during the business day type of time. Of course, now with our 3 to 5 session, it's a little bit easier. But transportation is always an issue to help them because they don't always have cars or an ability to get here or to our meetings. And we would go through a particular high school. So we were going through East before, and then that would help us with the liaison element to the school. And then after our last 2 youth stepped off, I think we kind of revisited it and just, I think we're losing a little bit of the connection back to the high school to kind of make that happen. And then 2, it was being a little more effort than what our staff could bear at the time to try and coordinate it. But because this was back when it was just Office of Sustainability. But then we made a concerted effort to get young representation in the form of a college student. And so we were able to have a college student that was on the advisory council for a couple of years. And then he ended up getting hired by the city. And so then he had to leave the council. And so, and then we didn't get another person, a young person on the next round in our recruiting effort. But I think there's a big impetus that we're putting on that. And the climate task force did a really good job of bringing in a high school youth member, and he was really pivotal actually, and very kind of impressed upon the other members of council and definitely swayed their opinions many times. And so I think it's something that we could probably partner, and I'm looking at Eric right now on finding a way to try and make sure that we get more youth involvement going forward.
And he put in the chat that he can help get the word out.
Oh, great. Yes. Thank you, Eric.
Great. Thanks for that. Other questions or thoughts? All right. Well, thank you. So Sunrisa, back to you for the agenda.
Excellent. So we're running a little bit behind, but I think we'll cut back the time in the breakout sessions a little bit. And I think we'll be able to recover. I don't know if I'm going to ask our 2 committee folks to maybe cut back a little bit on their time too. But what we might do is just have a good discussion in the breakouts, and then we will shorten up the report back time or eliminate that part so we can at least still have good conversation in breakout sessions. That being said, Jill Cooper is our next speaker, and we had 10 minutes slotted, but she's going to try and cut that back just slightly. So thank you, Jill. And hopefully Liz has made her a co-presenter so she can share her screen. Or
not yet.
And then
you have to do it, Sunrisa, because I'm not the host.
Oh yeah,
I don't have the permission. Yeah, you just hover over her.
Yep, got it done. I forgot you made me a big host now, so we're good.
Got it. I'm just going to show a couple slides, you guys, just because we could take this offline with people that might be interested. But you guys might have heard about environment, social governance, ESG. It's, I call it under the umbrella of sustainability, but it's what the investors, banks, insurance companies, we're working with all 3 categories now of companies that are motivating companies to do more reporting and take more action around ESG. It could be a science-based target. It could be water reduction, it could be safety and employee numbers, community engagement. And so I just put up a couple slides that I'm not really gonna talk to more than just let you guys see the typical categories. I've never been a fan of the triple bottom line or the three-legged stool. I've been more a fan that sustainability from a business perspective is a lens you look through, and you consider all these things when you make decisions, and it's not separate because it's awkward in a company. But what companies are starting to hear are get questions from their investors, board of directors. It doesn't matter if they're public or private. In fact, most of our ESG clients are not publicly traded. They're private companies that are getting just as many questions about these different categories. So what's changed and why it may be relevant for the city to think about this is a slide one of my colleagues put together of what's been the transition around materiality, what's risky and at the greatest risk. Like I was on a call with an investment company this morning, and they're going to do due diligence on investing in a company, and they want us to do the ESG portion of it. Well, they want us to do all of it, but they want us to add in an ESG portion, which means all these other risks that weren't well documented or monetized in the future because of this increase in focus on materiality. We're getting to the point of what's called dynamic materiality, which when I was at Anadarko, I would do a review every quarter of where we were with these sustainability risks, ESG risks. But why I wanted to bring it up to this group, and again, if there's a group, because we don't have a lot of time today, if there's a group that's interested, I haven't seen too many cities and counties ride this wave. There's a wave going on here. I haven't seen too many of them ride the wave. I haven't seen too many of them reach out to their larger employers or the building owners. They're definitely struggling right now, but they're also getting a lot of pressure in this area and say, can they help you guys meet some of your targets? And if they can do it under this ESG world, they get the credit with their investors. And it could be that they don't have any emissions to reduce, but they also get credit for contributing to local efforts, to city county efforts. What the investors and others are in the insurance companies, everyone's looking for is, are you looking at a way to reduce your risk? And there could be some opportunities where some companies their dollars would be better spent with the city versus trying to get to that last little nth degree of control or reduction in emissions or air water quality or something on their part. And again, investors and the banks and others I'm working with are all open to that concept. So I thought I'd throw that out there. I promised Sonrisa I would try to go under 5 minutes. If there are individuals interested in this discussion and seeing how this may be able to help Denver, I think it's a great place for the Sustainability Council to help out. But that's it. If anyone has any questions.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions about ESGs or anything else for Jill? And Ashley asked Jill if you could share the presentation with the group.
I can share a few of the slides. We actually did this for a client, so I'll pull out the slides that I shared with you guys and give them to you. Yeah, it's a lot bigger of a slide deck. It goes into a lot of strategy, but yeah, I can share those.
Excellent, thank you. That'd be appreciated. Thanks for doing the micro mini version of that. I know that we're trying to make up a little bit of time here, so thank you, Jill, for that. Okay, with that, I think we are ready to transition into our breakout sessions. What we are doing is we have 5 members of our city staff here that are going to help facilitate different conversations. I sent out the questions and a bunch of resources in your email today. So if you'll be able to reference those to help with the conversation in the different breakout groups. If anyone really wants to change the breakout group that they're in, that's fine. We can do that. Just return to the main room after you've gone into your breakout, if you don't mind. What I am going to do, though, because we have a few fewer people than we assigned on the groups, I'm going to cancel the round 1 version of community solar gardens and the round 2 version of electric vehicles. And so that everyone will still get to go into whatever they've assigned, because really it's the same group that only had 1 person in it that would have been in those 2 groups. And so we're just canceling where there was pretty much no population. And then Adrian, that you're the only person that I had to move. So though Lauren's back now too. So actually, Lauren, there's going to be 2 of you that are impacted. But both of you, if you don't like the group that you're going into or where you'll be, you can let me know, and I'll get you back into a session that you like. Everyone sound good on that? All right, we are going to launch the breakouts, and hopefully this will work. Welcome back, everybody. I'm sorry to be so rude and kick you out. Just give a few more seconds for everybody to come back. Couple more rooms still waiting on, just a second.
There you go.
Hey, there you are, Jay. All right, hello everybody, welcome back. I'm trying to do a quick roll call, looking 1, 2, 3, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Good, we still have a quorum, so we'll still be able to do the vote, Joyce, but nobody drop off, all right? We need to keep a quorum. So I want to take about just quickly minutes for any strong reactions that folks had, anything that, any comments you still want to make from your breakout session and bring out to the group, or even if our moderators have any like amazing ahas or feelings that you were getting from the breakouts, that'd be fabulous to hear as well. We have about 3 to 5 minutes where we can do that kind of have that kind of a conversation here.
Well, we had just gotten started with green jobs and then moved over to EVs. I think we had some good discussion on both, but with regard to green jobs, I was wondering what the city might be able to do in educating companies, mainly larger companies in the area, to actually going to the top of the executive boards and creating a chief sustainability officer position in those companies. I think unless it's elevated to that level, it's not going to get as much done as it would if it's handled by a different level in the company.
You're on mute, Sunrisa.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. Thank you, Jay, for that comment. I know y'all had a little bit of a disjointed conversation, but I think you had some good momentum in there. And so I'm glad that comment, that you could also share that comment that may not have made it in the breakouts. Grace, yeah.
Sure. So we spoke about my groups spoke about resiliency and the resiliency planning effort. So a couple of big takeaways that I was really interested to hear about. One was a recommendation of not just looking at a gap analysis so much as doing an analysis of the city's plans and looking for places where they conflict. And I think when it comes to resiliency planning, I thought that was really a very interesting point, that we may have priorities that another department's plans conflict with. And so that will be interesting. And then the other main point of our discussions was about the importance of the social fabric. And you know, how can we build up resiliency within our communities at really starting at the individual level. You know, what can individuals do and how can the city support those efforts? So everything from, you know, microgrids and community gardens that help build resiliency within individual spaces, but then, you know, how do we build neighborliness? You know, how do we build people connecting together? And that got us into the discussion about affordable housing and displacement. And you know, again, what tools does the city have to support building up of our neighborhoods?
Excellent, thank you. Any other reactions from the groups, Liz or Leslie?
Yeah, I can share as well. So both groups talked about composting and the fact that the incentives in Denver are kind of backwards, since residents have to pay for composting. So we talked a little bit about, you know, pay as you throw and the type of changes that would come if and when that's implemented, and how that would, you know, like kind of rectify the incentives. We also talked about ways in which we could get the private sector to either compost or reduce food waste. More generally, like, you know, like a ban on organics to landfill, or having to disclose how much food is being discarded, incentivizing donations, things like that. We also talked about making it more obvious to residents the benefits of composting, so that people really understand kind of the linkages. And that's something that Dottie does, but you know, there's probably some more that we can do to just really have people understand how it all comes together, and how compost is much more beneficial to the soil than topsoil or something like that. So those are some of the things we talked about. We talked about a lot of things, but yeah, kind of overlap between the two groups.
Thank you, Leslie. Liz or Johnny, you want to take a minute?
Yeah, I just really enjoyed the green jobs discussion we had. It was great. Really wonderful suggestions of organizations that we should be connecting with. A really powerful reminder to make it easy and accessible for those who are seeking those training and workforce opportunities, and really connecting the workforce training opportunities with the actual jobs, making sure those are good paying jobs. So some really great ideas coming out of that discussion. So thank you, everyone.
And I really appreciated the feedback and insights from my group about our community solar program. Definitely continuing to strive to figure out how to take all of the great things that we're doing and boil it down into a more concise explanation for people, and then to get put in front of some of the organizations that the members of this committee have connections to, or we're just able to suggest as being a part of the community, and letting them know that Denver's energy investments will provide opportunities for workforce training, for bill savings, for student engagement, and a number of things that we hope to achieve with this program, and look forward to putting it into practice.
Great. Thank you so much, Johnny. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions in the breakouts. I really appreciate it. If any of our facilitators need to hop off, I completely understand. Thank you for being here and helping lead these conversations. Hopefully the feedback is useful for you in your work. With that, I want to give the floor to Joyce, and she actually has something for us to vote on. And I am regretting I didn't put that at the top of the agenda, but I think we still have a quorum. And so Joyce, feel free to take it away.
Thank you, Sunrisa. This is, we're considering this the wrap up for the policy committee for the year. And we haven't met since the whole council came together the last time. So just as a recap, we had developed a list of policy concepts this year that would have needed more detailed study to be developed into policy proposals. And we also were keeping in mind that we wanted to address gaps in current city policy and not be duplicating any efforts underway, especially with all the recommendations of the Climate Task Force and other sustainability work within city departments. We thought it was important to wait. And of course, Grace has addressed the fact that the office is going to be conducting this comprehensive assessment, which I think is a really going to be a valuable exercise to look at all the existing goals and recommendations through this master assessment. And so these recommendations we had this year were being tucked into that assessment. And I think it will be, if there's a policy group, I think there's a policy committee, it'd be important to pick up on some of these items next year if it is truly discovered that there is something worth pursuing, because there were committee members that had particular interest in those topics. And then the carryover project that Sunrisa is mentioning, and the item that we would like to gain a vote on, relates to a request that Liz Babcock made last year. She had requested that the committee explore the potential of Denver green spaces for carbon storage and how that might help bridge the gap in reducing the overall carbon budget for the city. And we've already mentioned and reported the high level summary of that, in that the exploration revealed that the storage potential is very limited and can't really close that gap. So that we really went down the route of pursuing how soils and soil plant associations do have the potential to be enhanced, and how that can increase greater carbon storage, but more importantly, provide a more resilient urban system. And so this memo really packs in a lot of information into a couple of pages. I want to thank Monica and Eric and Sherry, who all contributed to this. Monica and Eric are here today too, so if there are questions, we can try to answer them. But we would like to have the support of the council in allowing the office to be able to move forward with this as a recommendation from the council and kind of bring it up the chain of command. So I guess I'll leave it at that point for a moment, just to see if people did have a chance to review it and if there are any questions or comments.
Yeah, and I apologize that I didn't send it out with the original agenda item. I just spaced it. I'm not used, you know, I always leaned on Jana to be a clever agenda and materials sender outer, and so now I'm trying to take that over. But maybe Joyce, you could just give the high level main points that is recommended in the memo for those that maybe didn't read it, and then they could see if there's anything controversial that they would feel uncomfortable with voting to support.
I would say that some of the top elements of this proposal really talk about healthy soil and how compost application can have an impact on that, and the importance of undisturbed, more wild areas and native plants being used. And then they're at the top of the memo, which if you saw anything, you saw a few high-level recommendations, really looking at some of the research that's referenced in the memo and trying to address some ideas that we had that we thought the city could tuck into their real resilience program in terms of land management. I do feel that it has been a gap generally in looking at resiliency. We did touch on that in our breakout session as well. And so I think this begins to address some of those areas. I certainly haven't looked at all the plans in Denver, but from what I've seen, what we're trying to tackle here does just start to open the door to some of the changes that could potentially be made. And Monica or Eric, please jump in if you might have comments.
I don't have comments, but I do want to thank you, Joyce, for keeping this alive.
You're welcome, Monica. I just took it home.
Okay, do we have any questions from the council? And if not, then I would ask if there was anyone willing to make a motion to approve the memo as a recommendation to the office.
I so move.
Second.
That was Adrian and Jay with the motion and Adrian with the second, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. All in, or I guess this is a discussion. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye or otherwise indicate.
Aye.
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 And I'm counting.
Okay, aye.
Thank you. And then, let's see, any opposed? Seeing none. And any abstentions? Okay, excellent. Thank you all so very much. And congratulations to Joyce, Eric, Monica, and I forgot the other person's name.
Sherry was on the committee. Sherry Gibson was on the committee.
And
support
Sharon.
me.
Great, thank you. Congratulations to you all. Thank you for your work on that. I know that was a lot of research that you all had done.
It took way too long, but yes.
But there
We
were
got
some interim reports that you all that gave to us as well that were actually super helpful. There was interim information that you had given to Liz and to me and to Patrick Murphy, our intern, where you let us know that carbon sequestration was not necessarily a viable option. And that was useful information. And I think that's what caused you to re-steer into this new direction and still be able to give us a useful product. Beyond don't do this, which is also useful information, you are now giving us things to do, which is wonderful. So definitely thank you all for your work. Much appreciated. With that, Joyce, do you have anything else that you would like to share from the policy committee side?
I think that's all. I enjoyed my work with the committee. Thank you all.
Excellent. Thank you, policy committee, for all of your work over the years for our office. Much, much appreciated. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Theron to help us close out our public value, sustainability as a public value committee work.
Yeah, just to refresh everyone's memory, this committee was working on the Sustainable Neighborhoods program and helping to bridge between new neighborhoods that wanted new projects versus experienced neighborhoods that already done projects, and capturing those projects, documenting them, and then putting them in an online library. I think the group learned a lot about how to cover both sides of this. We worked on people's skill sets. We tried to make some standard templates out there. We made sure there was a need, so we worked with new neighborhoods to make sure they really wanted this, and then we worked with some of the existing neighborhoods to see if they were willing to share their ideas. And on both sides we found great receptivity, and I think that's what made this successful, or had the potential for successful. I think in the end we ended up between 4 and 8 activities that we really have documented well, and I think it's a great starting point. How that goes forward, I think it's going to depend on future committees or how we draw from the advisory council to support something in the future. So the whole baseline is there. I think I don't want to put words in Taylor's mouth, but I think we helped her organization to kind of expand their limited reach in there and enable them to reach more neighborhoods or reach deeper into the RNOs. And if with a little bit of attention or a set of enthusiastic volunteers, that could keep going or even be expanded. So I hope that's enough for what you're looking for there. Maybe Taylor, if you're still on, to give a couple comments from the city side as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, Taylor did have to leave.
Okay.
Yeah, but just to give some context too, for those who didn't know, part of the issue too that was brought forward was that the sustainable neighborhoods couldn't expand any bigger than what it exists, its current footprint. And so this was a really great way to try and identify ways to extend some of the best practices or common efforts that were happening in the existing sustainable neighborhoods program to other neighborhoods that maybe could not join through the program itself. So in any case, yes, it's been, I'm excited to dig into the material too, because Jana had really been partnering with Taylor on that. So I actually don't know all of the different 4 to 8 activities that you were saying that are documented, but I'm really curious to look into
And
them.
Sonrisa, just one other thing. This is Jay.
Yes, Jay.
Kind of formally, we've created an organization called the Northside Sustainability Alliance. And some of the people on the committee or the council might have heard about that, but we're starting to get a good deal of momentum. And it includes several neighborhoods on the north side of Denver. And I just wanted to mention it's kind of going along in parallel, and it's growing, and it's gaining more popularity, and I just wanted to tell everybody about that. I think we informed you about an article that we're going to be writing that'll go into one of the local newspapers on the climate task force recommendations. And we wanted to see if there might be somebody from the city that we could get some quotes from. So if you didn't receive that email, it should be in your inbox, and I wanted to make you aware of that.
Yeah, I'll take a double look for it, Jay. I don't remember seeing it, but I will take a look, and when I find it, I will pass it on, probably to Grace. and if I don't find it, I will reach out to you and circle back on that. And Jay, you gave us an excellent bridge to our collaboration corner element of the agenda. Unless, Theron, you have anything else that you would like to mention about your committee. I would maybe, other than just for us to give a big thanks to you and to all the members of your committee as well for all the work that you have done over the last 2 years on this topic. And I know you all were on the ground and doing interviews and things like that, and that was a lot of effort. So I definitely appreciate you and your committee as well. And so nice applause out to you all. Yay. Thank you very much. And so I'm assuming, because you're not saying anything, that we are you have nothing else. And so I'd like to move it into Collaboration Corner. Here's the opportunity for anyone, thanks Theron. Here's the opportunity for anyone to share anything about your organizations, any announcements that you might have, or any solicitations for partnerships. And let's see if anybody has anything.
Well, this is Jay again. In addition to what I said about that North Side Sustainability Alliance, I'm a member of the Regis University Community Alliance group, and we are looking to put together a forum sometime in November to foster a description, explanation, etc., on the Climate Action Task Force recommendations. And because we're doing a series of forums in the neighborhoods around Regis, and this is the one that we thought we'd tackle for November. And there again, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but we're looking for possibly having somebody from the city be a speaker on that forum. So again, we're doing this because we think each of the neighborhoods needs to do their part, especially in the implementation of that of those recommendations. So this is our first effort to tackle that.
Excellent, thank you, Jay. If you send me the information on date and time on that, we can probably recruit someone from the office to support you on that. Jessica, great. I saw you come on video. You have something?
So my organization, Vibe Tribe Adventures, it originally was Black Girls Hike, and then we changed it to Black Girls Hike Global. We recently got our 501c3 status, and so we decided to become more of a community service to the community versus having people pay to go outdoors, to do hiking, to do first aid, nature walks and things like that for health and wellness, also environmental science. So we are launching a Black Girls Hike program, and we're also launching an urban development program called Urban Trekker, our youth development program, excuse me. So we're looking for board members who can volunteer a few hours of their time per year. Also anyone that's willing to help give funding, because nonprofit world is completely different than the corporate world. And then also anybody that has any connections to environmental science for youth, educational for snowshoeing, for skiing, for conservation of wildlife, for parks and wildlife. We just partnered with Colorado Parks and Wildlife, so maybe that's why I'm saying it so much. But I have a lot of information. I'm super excited for what we have and what the benefit that we could be for the community, and encouraging people of color to get outdoors. I mean, we have a beautiful backyard. We might as well use it if it doesn't get burnt up right now. So I am really, really excited, and I am honored to sit on this board with you all as well.
Hey, Jessica, this is Jill. If you want an introduction to the GOCO director, because I know Chris Castilian has a great passion for this.
Yeah, I just had a meeting with them. They set me up on a huge conference call November 6th with all of the youth programming outdoor. So I'm excited to meet all the organizations, but if there's any others that I'm missing and any warm passes, I would love that. If you could just say, hey, I met Jessica Newton, I sit on the board with her for Vibe Tribe, you know, for the Office of Sustainability, that would be great too.
Excellent. And Theron, I saw you come off mute. And actually, before I hand it off to you, Theron, I want to give a shout out to Jessica, who was on CPR the other day with an interview about more folks of color getting into nature. Or
Thank
being
you.
recognized that they are in nature already is maybe the other way to say. Theron.
Yeah, I just want to plug Proposition 2A again. This is the tax that will fund a greater funding for this group here and the office that we work for. I'm trying to keep it as neutral as I can so Grace and Sonrisa and Liz can listen in. But the polling is very positive on it. But what we found is if a positive message can get to the person who's voting first before any negative or any questions get out there, it has a great effect on the ability to keep those people on the positive and to actually increase the positivity rating by about 10%. So your word does matter out there. So anything you can do to promote 2A and say that this office is a good office and it doesn't waste money and we have to do this and we have to save our climate, then it makes a big difference. So whatever you can do to help, vote yes on 2A. Thanks.
Thank you, Theron.
I
have no comments.
Sorry, Sonrisa. I was just going to jump in. I just popped something into the chat. PPAN is going to run a pollinator license plate bill in the legislative session, but we need 3,000 signatures. Super easy to sign. Please do if you feel like it.
Thank you, Joyce. Absolutely. Any other quick collaboration corners? I know we're borrowing 3 extra minutes of your day so far, but if any other announcements?